Ever feel like you're expected to pull off great project results with barely enough support to get you started? Well, you are not alone. To be honest, it's something I see a lot, where projects are launched with limited resources like people, time, money, or tools. And yet, those projects still succeed with the right planning. And in today's video, I'll walk you through how to build a solid project plan even when your resources are stretched thin, using tips I've used in the real world for years. Tip 1, lock in your priorities immediately. Okay, when you know from day one that you have resource limitations, the first thing you need to focus on is identifying your project priorities. Now, you may be asking, Adriana, why is this so important? Because when resources are limited, you won't have buffer room with your time or budget, and you definitely won't have time for rework or delays caused by office politics or hidden agendas. You need to know what matters most right from the beginning. No ifs, ands, or buts. That's why Project Priority Matrix is a simple tool you can use for this. It helps you identify which of these elements, time, scope, or budget, are a constraint, which can be optimized, and which can be flexible in relationship to the project you're working on. So just to make sure we're all on the same page, let's define what these mean. A constraint is a non-negotiable. It must be delivered exactly as defined. If something is to be optimized, that means it needs to be as effective as possible, but there is room for flexibility. And when something is flexible, that is where you can make adjustments when trade-offs are needed. So, like you should do on all projects, you need to get together with your sponsor, steering committee, or senior executives to complete the priority matrix. Review the overall project time, scope, and budget, and assign each of them as whether it's a constraint or whether it's optimized or flexible. Then, and this is the important part because you are working with limited resources, get everyone to literally sign off on what you've just agreed to. Normally, I wouldn't do signatures for the priority matrix because the project charter captures this information. But when I know that there are limitations from day one, I need to get this locked in immediately and, more importantly, get senior management on the same page. Doing this makes a priority matrix a real powerful tool because you can use it to stop anyone from changing the project priorities because you got initial sign-off. If you're serious about leveling up your project management skills, this is exactly what I help people do. And I put together a free guide with the 6 project management basics that will help ensure project success. Comment below requesting the guide and we will comment back with a link to download it for free. Tip 2, get crystal clear on scope and deliverables. Now, in a project that does not have resource limitations, I would actually start out by finalizing my scope first. But when you have resource limitations, I start with the priorities, like I outlined in the first tip. When you do that, you need to get clear on your project scope and deliverables next. You already know you have limitations, so you have to refine your scope and deliverables to align with the identified priorities. When you're working with limited resources like a tight budget or a small team or a compressed timeline, you really have less room for error. You don't have time to backtrack because something that was misunderstood from the start is just not going to happen. So don't make assumptions. Sit down with your sponsor or client and ask them, what are we trying to accomplish here? What do you want the project to actually produce? And what does success look like to you? What's in, what's out of scope for this project? And more importantly, make sure it all fits in with the agreed upon priorities. You're not going to be saying no, but you do need to say, here's what we can do with what we've got. You need to also capture the conversation in writing and transfer it into your charter. This step may feel like it slows you down, but it's the exact opposite. It gives you direction, cuts down on confusion, and speeds up every other part of the project. Because scope and deliverables are vague, People will fill in the blanks based on their own assumptions, and you do not want that. Why? Because it leads to rework, wasted effort, and frustration, and you really don't have time for that when resources are tight. Tip 3, get your team focused and aligned. When you're planning a project with limited resources, you cannot afford confusion, friction, or wasted effort. Your team needs to be focused, efficient, and working together towards the clear goal. That starts with clarity on roles, goals, and process. So first, clearly define each team member's role and how it ties into the project goals, because you won't get high quality work if people aren't sure what they're responsible for. When roles are clear, you have to avoid misunderstandings, and you want to improve collaboration and reduce dependencies on any one person to save the project. Every subject matter expert was brought onto the project for a reason. Lean into their strength and acknowledge their contributions equally. Next, I want you to get everyone aligned on the process you are going to be using. This becomes even more critical when your team is small or balancing multiple responsibilities. Make sure they know where to find project documents, the rules around action plan updates, and what's expected of them week to week. This is where the SLAY project management approach really shines. Several organizations I've worked with have put their entire teams through my course, and it really helps to get everyone on the same page from day one. Finally, create a safe environment where your team feels heard and respected. When resources are tight, pressure, it just runs high. That's when psychological safety matters the most. Use your emotional intelligence to spot when someone's overwhelmed or hesitant to speak up. The more your team feels safe to share concerns or offer ideas, and more importantly, solve problems together, the more effective and efficient they'll be. The bottom line, a clear, supported team is a productive team. And when you're running lean, you want clarity and connection, not chaos and confusion. Tip 4, don't send mixed messages, okay? When you're working with fewer resources, miscommunication is a luxury you cannot afford. You need to be clear, concise, and consistent with communication. With limited resources, mixed messages will derail you, and you do not have time for that. I promise you don't. So here are some best practices for clear, concise, and consistent communication. And hint, just do this for all your projects, not just when your resources are limited. Okay, so it's crucial to keep all stakeholders up to date on project progress, milestones met, any risks that show up, and what decisions you actually need help with. It's better to over-communicate than leave people in the dark, and trust me on this one. If you're working on a tight timeline with limited resources, the last thing you want is for crucial information to fall through the cracks. That can lead to missed deadlines, rework, which you never want on a project, but especially not when resources are limited. So set a regular cadence for updates. Even if it's just a quick email, and ensure your team knows from day one, the start, how often they hear from you and when you'll expect to hear from them. Better yet, like I talk about in my last tip, teach them how to share status updates in your WBS action plan so you aren't chasing them all the time, especially when resources are limited. Now, more on that in my next tip. Clear communication really builds trust and keeps your stakeholders engaged. So if you need extra help or decisions made quickly, they're more likely to support you. Tip 5, lean into your action plan. A detailed action plan is mandatory when you're working with limited resources. The last thing you want is confusion about what you're doing on your project and who's responsible for what. The action plan that I use, and that is in my SLAY project management course, is the work breakdown structure, or WBS. And when you have limited resources, it becomes everyone's best friend. It's a shared project document that really breaks down big deliverables into smaller, manageable tasks. It makes even the most complex project feel doable, especially when your team is small and stretched thin. WBS is going to help you do the following. Clearly see all the work that needs to be done without missing anything. It's going to assign limited resources more strategically based on task size and skill set. You're going to be able to track your progress and hold people accountable without micromanaging. You're going to have a fact-based, unemotional conversation when you need to adjust workload or shift priorities. Remember, you don't have time for rework or office politics. So start by identifying your high-level deliverables. Then break them down into those smaller bite-sized tasks. Keep going until each task is clear enough to assign. Then use your kickoff meeting to introduce the WBS to your team and work together to fill in those details. It is a great way to buy in with the team and to uncover any gaps early before they become issues. Now, here's a bonus tip. You can also use your WBS action plan as a status update tool. It keeps communication lean and focused, which is ideal when everyone's already, believing me, juggling other work. With limited resources, you need structure more than ever, and a strong WBS can be like a clear roadmap, giving you one less thing to stress about. Tip 6, don't even think about skipping risk planning. When you're working with limited resources, your project is more fragile. A single delay, one team member out sick, or a small misstep can throw everything off. That's why you need to build risk into your plan from the beginning. Do this at the start. Listen, you have zero luxury. Part of the reason, unfortunately, people skip this step on projects because it seems very labor intensive and, let's be honest, sometimes overwhelming to identify anything that can go wrong and then plan how to stop it. But here's the truth, risk will happen. And when resources are limited, you cannot afford to scramble. So you need to plan for it. Now, I have an easy way to get risk planning in as you go, okay? As you go in very manageable chunks. So start during your project initiation. Ask your project sponsor and steering committee what risks they think could happen. Tie these risks back into the project justification and company strategy. Also use your priority matrix to guide the conversation. If time is a constraint, what happens if we hit a delay? If project scope is tight, what happens if requirements shift? Okay, in the planning stage, as you go, you want to talk to subject matter experts in your organization, even if they're not on your team. They'll have insights into risks you may not even considered. And then review all the potential risks, identified the ones that are relevant to your project, and then transfer them into your project charter for discussion at the kickoff meeting. Now, as you go, you're now at the kickoff meeting. I want you to walk your team through the risks and ask them, what could trigger this risk? What's our plan B, which is a contingency? Who's responsible for monitoring or acting on it? Add the agreed upon mitigation and contingency plans to your WBS action plan and assign due dates and order. Now, when you are executing, risks evolve as the project progresses. Once the team is hands-on, they'll see things that you just didn't see before. Hold a deeper dive risk workshop if needed, and loop sponsors and steering committee if new risks require more time, money, or resources. And don't forget to document updated plans and carry them into your WBS so your team stays aligned. Throughout the project, you just want to review your risk register regularly. Revisit assumptions and confirm whether anything's changed. Make risk discussions a regular part of your team meeting, not an afterthought. A simple agenda, which can itemize, can really help with ensuring that you follow through and the team has awareness. Now, okay, one final thing. You cannot strategize when you're scrambling. A good risk plan won't eliminate every challenge, but it will give you the tools to respond quickly, calmly, and confidently, even when you're stretched thin. For more on risk planning, I actually have a great video that breaks it all down. Type in the YouTube search bar, Adriana Girdler, risk. Now that you know what to do when your resources are limited, and I hope you don't have it, but you now know what to do, you need to ensure that all your projects are successful. And I've written a guide on the 6 basics to keep your projects from failing. Grab the link below this video. Now watch this next video. It's a step-by-step video on how to avoid some of the most common project pitfalls. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you found this video helpful, I would be so grateful if you gave this video a thumbs up, even put a comment. See you in the next video.